It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil on this Friday, October 20th. We don't have to worry about any unlucky, no Friday the 13th, nothing like that.
How'd that go?
Well, there's some stories behind that. I will tell you a little bit about that because, I spoke too soon last week.
Mr. Positivity.
I know, it came to bite me in the butt a little bit. Anyway, happy Friday, Shelley. It's wine time. This is episode 183. And since, once again, this is part 3 now of our Paso Robles trip. Now we're about 3.5 weeks removed from that. We're going to be letting you in during our tasting when we were down there. So we'll just take a time out and have a little wine. But I want to open a bottle, Shelley. So
Pop
goes the bottle. And this is our reception wine tonight, which is from the steakhouse restaurant at the Paso Robles Inn, is where we stayed. Oh, your glass is right there.
by the microphone.
Yes. So
They gave this wine to us when
they
we
also
checked in.
gave one, we'll go ahead and give it a little look-see there. Anyway, it was a very nice little gesture, yeah. And so Lindsay and Brian got one in their room too, because it was supposed to be a part of their honeymoon. It's part of our engagement. This is now in year 3. Or close to year 3. So anyway, Shelley, we can actually do a toast. We'll be doing a toast with Liz at Levo, but why not to health, wealth, and abundance, gratitude, romance, and
Peace on it.
it'll be the first of 2 times you hear that.
Not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. That's very nice.
So
I am.
You should talk a little bit about smelling the bottle nowadays and why that was a good thing the other night.
Yeah. So on white wines, you're probably not going to get necessarily so much, although we have. This is something that I picked up from Sam Lang, who now got his own little wine bar, Lola, because what Lola wants, Lola gets. Sam has been a guest on our podcast from time to time. He's a sommelier. And I noticed he always, when he opened it, and he wasn't really obnoxious about it. He would open it and just smell just the top of the bottle. Because you get the sense pretty quick if it's not a good bottle. Okay. We had a bottle the other night, again, not saying names. And Shelley's like, can we get a Merlot? I'm like, yes, thank you for letting me know. So I go downstairs, I grab a Merlot, I bring it up, I open it, do that. No.
Not again.
Yeah, so I poured literally about, I'm holding my fingers about 1.5 inches, 2 inches apart. And Shelley said, why aren't we? He said, oh, I don't know why. And then she tasted it and she says, like, oh, I know why. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, but that's a good way of testing just by smell right off the bat. You pull that cork and then just give it a little smelly smell, So as for Friday the 13th, we had a meeting with a client that we usually have on Friday mornings. And we always do a positive business thing, from our week. I just said, I'm going to blaze through Friday the 13th like nothing. Famous last words. Yeah, we had client issues on more than one client. And it was
technology trouble.
Yeah, it was, just not fun. And it was very stressful. But we did make it through. Now, Colorado did not. They had a 29-0 lead on lowly Stanford, and they gave it up, lost in 2 overtimes. However, the next day, the Huskies, they actually beat Oregon 36-33 in a very close game that they probably didn't necessarily deserve to win, but a win is a win is a win. And that's our Football Talk 101 for this week as we move towards Levo, which is in Tin City, down in Paso Robles. And honestly, the pictures I got from Levo were outstanding. I love that. Although, wait till you see Justin next week. They really went above and beyond. But anyway, so I don't know. We're probably not going to talk too much more. We need to work on this wine anyway. Anything you want to say about Levo and Lizz Sevin as we go into that conversation with her? Other than she is very pregnant during the course of the episode.
Very pregnant. She could deliver any second.
I did ask.
But she didn't.
Are you going to be tasting wine with us? She's like, this baby's already cooked. And then, of course, she's just tasting wine, not whatever. So why don't we go ahead and pass you on to Lizz Sevin, who is the direct consumer manager there at Levo Wines, Shelley, myself, Lindsay, and Brian, our DP team.
Different perspective.
Thank you.
Team.
And we'll see you in a bit, or talk to you in a bit. We are here with Lizz Sevin of Levo, who is probably, as of this publishing, already a mom. Are you a mom before?
I am a mom before,
So another mom.
Well, it sounds like somebody's qualified to catch my baby if I go into labor. So
Yes, we have Shelley Webb with us that is a baby catcher. Used to be.
that's great.
Sure.
Well, we have a joke because Brett, our winemaker, is terrified of blood. Like, if he gets a shot, you would think he thought he was going to be a professional football player. He's kind of the biggest one on the planet. He one time woke up in the morning and was like, "Yeah, I have to go get an X-ray. I think I broke my foot." And I was like, well, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I woke up and it hurts a lot." I'm like, "But you didn't do anything to break it?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Well, if you broke your foot, you would know you broke your foot."
Well, there's our introduction to the founder of Levo,
Yeah.
is Brett.
But he was like, "Oh," I was like, if I go into labor, Taylor's driving." So Taylor, our assistant winemaker, is like hunter. He just killed a deer last weekend. Like, very outdoorsy. I was like, "Listen, if I go into labor, Taylor's driving. If you're not driving, you're gonna kill us both." And he's like, "Oh, you totally drive." And I was like, "No, Taylor's driving. I don't care if he's out there driving." Yeah, I was like, I'm not
Brett, of course, from Eagle, Idaho, probably had aspirations to play for the University of Idaho Vandals. I don't even know how they're doing this year.
No, I think Boise State.
Oh yeah, well that'd be the one of the Smith.
So his dad played at Boise State.
Oh, there you
so
go.
I was telling Shelley when you were out of the area, Brett is from a long line of Canadian football players. He was actually born in Canada. His grandfather, if you mention his grandfather to Canadian people, he's like a legend of Canadian football, which the
CFL.
What is it? The Saskatchewan
Rough Riders. They're our team.
So his great-grandfather, his grandfather, and his father all played for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
Nope.
That's where I was born.
No, really? That's where Brett was born, in Regina? Yeah,
Regina.
that's where Brett was born. Yeah, and then they moved to Eagle. And both his younger siblings were born in Eagle.
It's spelled with an R, not a V, just so you know that. It's Regina.
It's confusing.
I've never heard that joke.
Speaking of Regina, this has nothing to do with it. Let's start on some wines. Lizz, you just poured what?
I just poured our rosé. So this rosé is a 2022 rosé. That's the first thing everyone says is this is a rosé.
Wow.
I will say Vinum next door, which is excellent. You should put it on your itinerary for next time. They have a rosé that makes our rosé look bright red.
It seems like that's the trend right now, right?
Yeah, well, so the
Less on
Provence
the
style rosé,
Yeah.
it tends to be really light in color. Yeah, there you go. Oh, jealous. Yeah, that's amazing. So this is kind of an emulation of the Provence style rosé.
Yes.
No oak on it, mostly done in our concrete cone, but we do have some stainless steel on it. So Brett calls this like adult Gatorade. He wants this for, Paso. This summer we were really mild, but typically Paso is outrageously hot, and he's like, this is, I want to be able to throw ice cubes in it, have it at the beach if you want it, have it with a nice meal. So Yeah, and I don't automatically love rosé, but I think that like bang for your buck, this is the best rosé that I've ever had.
That's your style for sure.
Before we taste it, Lynn, should we do a Wine Time Fridays toast?
Sure.
To health, wealth, and abundance, gratitude, romance. This time, Shelley.
A piece on earth.
There we go.
It is.
And new babies.
And new
And if
baby.
you have any suggestions for boy names, I'm accepting because we are imminently due and I don't have any.
Let me bring up ChatGPT, and it'll give me all the boy names from 2021 because that's the last time.
You just mentioned this, but I'm feeling Hunter.
Hunter. I had an English teacher that I was a little, hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast, a little bit in love with, whose name was Mr. Hunter, and I feel like that might be
Isn't
a
it
little
funny
weird.
how names stick with you when
Yes.
you're younger? Like,
Yes.
oh man. All, like your old bullies and things like that. Oh, can't have a child named,
I've liked Aiden recently. I also know a football player named Aiden. We were just thinking about, we're talking about football.
Yeah, so I'm Irish, and so my big thing is like, there's 17 Elizabeths in our family, and so Aiden, as an Irish family, we have Aidens. Yeah, that's my thing, and like now having my son in school, Sean, I like Sean, so I have an uncle and cousins and everything, James. And then, so we were pondering Seamus, but my mom had a cousin Seamus who was like, just this person who evokes this image in my mind, and so I just can't imagine naming my child it.
I'm leaning towards Fred.
Drop Dead Fred, remember that movie?
You could actually
you
make
can't
it.
go wrong with a solid Brian.
I mean,
Everyone knows it.
Hello, Irish.
And a
Yeah,
bad Brian.
sorry, Brian. That's an oxymoron. A solid Brian.
Yeah.
Just saying. There you go.
Jumbo shrimp.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. The list is long. So yes.
What is this rosé?
Shelley.
So this rosé, actually, what I really want to tell you is, so it's 88% Grenache. There's also like 8% Mourvèdre, a teeny bit of Syrah, and a teeny bit of Crête Blanche. What's really exciting about this is we have our very own vineyard. And I know you guys are kind of new here, but it's in the Willow Creek district, which is kind of like the most sought after area in Paso. And we planted a baby vineyard, and our very, very first fruit from it, like I'm talking basically nothing, came in 2022, and some of that Grenache ended up in this rosé. So this is our first bottled wine with Levo fruit in it. So for us, a really exciting
How
wine.
cool.
Yeah.
This vintage.
This vintage, so
Okay,
2022,
beautiful.
yep. We'll have our first reds for our wine club probably fall 24.
Got it.
But in terms of fruit that landed in the bottle that came from our vineyard, this is it.
These glasses are fantastic. Too,
They are,
by the
they're
way.
very
They are
dangerous.
they can be. Yeah, the stem is pretty.
You try
thin.
buffing like 50 of those in a row.
Yeah.
Do you ever snap them when you're buffing them?
Yeah,
out?
that's my point. They're
Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah,
It's
you
so
slice
good.
your hand.
We're big proponents, of course, to the one wine glass from Andrea Robinson that are very resistant to breakage.
That's my style.
Yeah, and it's
It'll take a beating.
She's a master sommelier, and she designed a one white and a one red, and we talk about it probably 50% of the time because we love glasses so much. And Andrea is a semi-friend of ours.
In our Airbnbs, we can only do stemless.
Mm.
Unfortunately, because we don't prefer to drink our wines from stemless glasses.
Sure.
But you have to imagine that.
Yeah, you need to do that.
We just
for
need to
Oh,
sure.
the number of
We're
glasses that have been tipped over.
That's wine. Even
Yeah.
better.
Oh, you mean
Wine
Oh,
coming
there you go.
in to a winery.
That's it's Lady of the Sunshine Bretzler Club. So
Okay.
I'm assuming that's this fall shipment.
Nice.
I can tell from the tape.
So
Lady of the Sunshine.
Yeah, they're down in Santa Barbara. Really excellent
cool.
wine. Yeah.
well, that actually brings up a great question because we saw signs to Cambria, which is in Santa Barbara.
Cambria is not in Santa Barbara. Cambria is here.
So Cambria winery.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Cambria, the town.
Yeah, so that was our discussion. We saw Cambria signs, and we thought Cambria winery was in Cambria, which is near Santa
Would make
Barbara.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Cambria is actually north of here. It's
Okay.
northwest, so it's on the coast north of here. Very beautiful area.
Yeah.
All time sunset if you can ever catch a sunset out there.
Yeah.
There's otters and whales and
Waters.
go there. I think Cambria is right close to where the sea otters have been stealing surfboards. Have you heard about this phenomenon? There's like a sea
That
otter
is
that's like super
awesome.
aggressive and is chasing people off their surfboards to like lounge on them.
Oh,
And it's my husband's a surfer, and I want to say it's like up in somewhere in Cambria.
That's
But
incredible.
there's like
I love
also
it.
this thing that he's only stealing like foam topped boards, which are what like quote unquote kooks ride. So that's like even more like Yeah, I'm like, probably because I'm uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
you know.
They're like lounging on this big board.
Yeah.
Water.
Well, it's
Like,
probably
this is wild.
tiring. Taking their power back. Yeah.
They're taking their power back.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about Tin City?
Please.
So, you know, this is probably 2 or 3 years ago, Shelley and I saw the documentary on Tin City, and that just reestablished how much we wanted to visit Paso, whatever. And,
As long as you don't say Paso Robles.
well,
Oh,
here's
that's
the
really
thing.
You have to
Yeah.
mispronounce it.
So,
No.
it's Robles.
El Paso de Robles.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Yeah,
right?
it's a Spanish
We
name.
listened to a podcast on the way over doing our research, and they're how to correctly mispronunciate Paso Robles is
Again,
what they
There
said.
was
How
a
to,
guy from Pablo's Creek
that was Jason Haas
that
who said, yeah, how to.
this is the correct mispronunciation.
I don't like that. I give our winemakers so much shit. I'm
Good.
like, you obviously grew up in the whitest state in America. Paso Robles. I'm like, just say Paso.
I mean, we Americanized in everything. Let's
Butchered.
pay.
Let's just-
Yes,
yeah,
thank
we
you.
butchered it.
So,
Butchered's a good way to
by the
put it.
way, this is the only time in Wine Time Friday history that we might have to slap an explicit tag on when Russell Mann is not on, with Liz dropping the shit
I
bomb
know.
right now.
I do have
And
a
I
potty
am
mouth.
so happy right
Oh,
now.
good.
Let's
Okay.
knock Russell off that pedestal. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Tin City.
Sure. What do you want to know?
We should talk about Tin City after the next wine. So
Sure.
we're doing
Let me
it
grab a
now.
wine.
Okay.
I really like that rosé. That's delicious.
Oh, yes, you would love it.
Oh, are all of your bottles this style?
Well, so that's a little Brettism. So Brett is an artist, and he does all of the artwork for our labels himself.
Because you couldn't maybe in football?
Correct. Yep. And so he, every vintage, we kind of have like a different theme. So for a while, he was really into spray painting, as you can tell from these
Yeah.
labels on the back. Now he's
I'm
like
so
taught.
sorry.
Oh,
you're fine.
these were labels.
Yeah, those were labels. So that was a Chardonnay label, and that was a Syrah label, our
Alright.
2019 Syrah label.
Thank you.
And so, depending on what he's into, and there will be some more labels in the back there. He's now currently into Photoshop. He's teaching himself Photoshop in his spare time. Oh yeah, of course. So these photos that he took are actually from Speak of the Devil. Wow. These photos he took are actually from like an airplane graveyard in Arizona
Okay.
that a lot of people know, but then he like photoshopped over them. So
Yeah.
only this vintage is in these bottles. Next year we'll have different bottles. And I think as we move into the state lines, he's going to get like state specific bottles. But our bottles, like if you look at vintage to vintage, well, the normal bottle, then we're going to have a wacky bottle. So
That's really fun.
yeah.
I love these.
This is a white blend.
Yeah, so wine. So this is a predominantly Grenache Blanc, and we are now excitingly on the menu. But it does have some Roussanne and some Petit Manseng in it. We had historically, actually, kind of back to the labels, done Chardonnay. And our Chardonnay was really, really popular. But when we planted our vineyard, Brett really wanted to stay Rhone specific, and so we planted Grenache Blanc. So this Grenache Blanc is not from our vineyard, but he decided, hey, I gotta rip the Band-Aid off and start doing Grenache Blanc. So our first vintage was last year, the 21, sold out completely. And this is our new one, and it's been really, really popular. So similarly to the rosé, mostly done in concrete, but our concrete egg. But there is a little bit of oak on this, and I hate oaky whites, but to me, I just put the oak on the finish. Like we jokingly say, it keeps the enamel on your teeth. You know, just...
I think, in my
Yeah.
opinion, when done with good balance, I'm
100%, yeah.
okay with oak.
Yeah, and I feel like the pendulum swings. Right? People do
And that's
one or the
exactly
other.
what it was. Like
Yeah.
early 2000s, it's like, oh, big buttery, Rombauer, you rock. Yeah. Then I went to stainless, and now I love stainless.
Sure.
I go stainless over a oak bomb any day.
Same, yeah.
But I love a good balanced.
Yeah, I want to be able to
for
taste
sure.
the fruit.
Yeah. We actually just tasted some Viognier up at Peach Canyon that they're toying with.
To go find some.
They went out,
They don't
yeah,
have enough,
and
yeah.
so we were able to taste the grape.
Viognier is a really fun varietal.
It really is, especially when you do it dry, because it doesn't taste dry. It's
It all
just
tastes
a
fruit.
fruity, and fruit kind of implies sweetness, but it's not. That's just such an interesting dynamic, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and it can change so much depending on the winemaker, right? Whether they choose
Sure.
to pick it early or whether they hang it late. So I love Viognier. We picked ours really early, as you could tell, and now we're just sitting and waiting, and we've gotten fruit from nowhere else, and we're all just, because by this time last year we had gotten all our Paso fruit already.
Yeah.
So it's
this year. I mean, there was the weird. We were down in Joshua Tree, but we got hit by the hurricane. Were you guys impacted? That was a weird.
Yeah, we didn't. We got a teeny bit of rain, but nothing crazy. And yeah, rain at that time of year can be pretty gnarly because it can cause like mold and mildew. But no, we were lucky we did not get any hurricane influence. But it's just been, normally we get like weeks and weeks of 100-degree weather, and we just haven't this year. Right. Which is nice for us, but it's the people who've been making wine here for a long time, I think, are not really sure how to handle it kind of thing. It's just
almost backwards for everywhere else.
Totally.
Like, we've been having hotter summers in many climates, and that's interesting to hear this particular climate has been a little reversed.
Yeah, we had a crazy rainy year, and then like catastrophic flooding, and then we've had this really mild spring, summer, and fall. So, and it became fall overnight. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not complaining.
That's what we're used to in North Idaho. It's all of a sudden, boom, there's the snow. We have 2.5 seasons in Coeur d'Alene. How many cases of wine is Levo making?
That's a great question.
Thank you. I have my moments.
It really fluctuates. So Brett is a really, really, he's really, really high standards. And so we've had years like in 2020, he sold off, like, he bulked out like half of the wine he made before we bottled because he just didn't like it. And 2020 was a tough vintage.
It's a nice option to have, though, isn't it?
100%.
If it doesn't quite make the cut, there are plenty of takers that say it will make our cut.
Yep, absolutely. And and great winemakers who want it. It just doesn't fit our program.
Sure.
So it really depends, but I would say we typically fluctuate between 2,000 and 2,500. 2020 we probably made a little less. Now we also brought in less fruit in 2020 because of the year that it was. But I would say on average it's probably between 2,000 and 2,500, and that's really where we want to keep it. We don't have a desire to be.
Yeah, you got to know your lane, right? Know your sweet spot.
And Brett really wants to be involved in every bottle that's made, every barrel, and I think once you get beyond that, it's harder to have control.
Let's talk a little bit about the rosé. It was 13.3 alcohol, 13.7 for this what we're calling white blend, and not a Grenache. It's a white blend. We're doing that.
Technically, you could call it a Grenache blend because it's over 75%.
Yeah, right.
Brett calls it a white wine. Yeah.
Okay. What are the price points on the both?
The rosé is 39, and then the white is 54.
Beautiful. We do like to have those in because we love it when our listeners go to the website, order up some wine.
I'm gonna grab the next red.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, and I think also like the economy in general is just in a place where a lot of people are not spending money they were.
They're spending it on food.
They're spending it on food, they're spending it locally, and they're not maybe traveling. Like we've seen our visitors to Paso are way down.
Joshua Tree's visitors are also way down Europe, like especially the last, even to pre-pandemic levels. I think it's something like 70% of pre-pandemic levels to the national park at least.
Right.
So that's interesting to hear. Like just overall tourism.
I mean, domestic travel, I think in general, because I mean, we were traveling in Europe earlier this summer, and we ran into everywhere we looked there were Americans.
So that's true.
And so I think a lot of people, pent up international demand. Things are finally reopened, and so there's a lot of people. All that money that might have gone to domestic travel, I think people are like, well, let's go splurge and do the trip to France or to Italy or to whatever.
And I think the people who have the means to do a trip to France are not as impacted as the people who maybe their big trip of the year is Paso or the big trip of the year is within the U.S. So the people who are doing those big trips are still doing them versus the people who, because I would say most of our clientele is LA and San Francisco, which is driving distance. But it's, we're just seeing way less people doing the drive. And I think the fall it's starting to pick up a little bit, but the summer was really quiet.
And Joshua Tree.
For sure.
I think fall will hopefully pick up a little bit, but that's interesting to hear that their voices kind of in some way.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like the pendulum we were talking about with the Chardonnay, right? Like right after kind of the COVID lockdown starting to lift, it was insane. Like it was like we couldn't keep up.
Yeah, totally.
And now, like it's again, I think people are just, it'll even out somewhere.
I feel like next year we'll probably be back to like 2019.
Probably,
overall.
Everything's cyclical.
How long has Levo been in this location at Twin City?
So Brett actually got it really early. So he started making wine in like 2013, and I want to say he was like 23, and he was pouring at a Garage East festival like a year later. And a gal had his wine. She's a wonderful wine club manager. I mean, sorry, not a wine club manager. She's a wonderful wine club member and has one of our OG members.
Who knows, down the road
She could. She would actually kill it. She would kill it. She is a go-getter. But she had his wine at the Garage East Festival, and her husband was the realtor for these properties, and she called him and was like, you got to bump Brett to the top of your list.
Yeah.
So Brett got in here, but when Brett got this location, it was really just Barrel House, and then we had Guillaume, and then Guillaume, like, not even all these buildings were built. Yeah. And it was totally kind of bare bones in here, and, you know, I was telling Phil that, we, like, initially he couldn't afford rent in an apartment and rent here, so he moved into the office. There's, like, funny, if you go in the back, there's a big rolling door, and there's still a piece of tape that if it's shut, says taking a shower, so people would know that he's taking a shower.
Is there still a bed here?
There's not. There was a futon in my office when I moved in. I was like, no, this will have to go.
Say, I'm married, and
single boy futon is. He's married and he's been with his now wife a long time. But I was like, I'm not into.
But
whatever.
there's still, I mean, that's kind of a old school survival thing for any business when you are like in it to win it, and you have to cut costs. Sometimes you are staying in the office. Going back real old school football, Don James had that year at the University of Washington. He's staying in the coach's office.
Sure.
It's setting an example a little bit for your staff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure at the time Brett didn't have a ton of staff. May have just
he was just him.
But it is look, we're all entrepreneurs here, and you have that mindset, which is you got to do what you got to do.
Gotta live in your garage for 6 months.
Or your, tin wine building. Yeah.
Well, it came out beautifully. So then you guys like designed the whole space and like.
So we had this really giant, like I'm talking almost wall to wall concrete bar that probably weighed 45,000 pounds with this like tin cover. That was really cool and served us well pre-COVID. But then COVID hit and we couldn't do the bar thing. So we kind of were like open and closed, and then we could be open by appointment. And we really didn't have like the vibe for appointments. So Brett was like, well, now's a good time. Let's just redo the tasting room and make it what we want.
There you go.
So the winter of 2020, it was the longest construction project of all time, but that wall was solid. We knocked the wall out, we built the patio because a lot of times we had to do tastings outside, which we couldn't do because we didn't have an outdoor, so we were doing it in the production room and opening the garage door, and that was very suspect. So that gave us the ability, and some people still prefer being outside, which is great, or they have dogs or whatever. And then we were able to set up the room so that we can do appointments. We can still manage some walk-ins, like on Saturdays when it's really busy.
So Brett just said, grab one end of this bar and we'll just lift it out.
It took like 12 guys and like 2 forklifts to get it.
Oh yeah, you're not even lifting it with one forklift. The back
so
wheels would go up.
He tried to convince us to keep it. It's at like. It's somewhere else in Tin City. Somebody else has it.
Okay.
We just forklifted it down the road.
How long was that bar?
How long was it?
Yeah.
I mean.
24 feet or something?
It was longer than that run. It was.
Okay.
20 feet long, but also like eye height for me, like very high. So we'd have short people and they'd be like, and I was like,
Shelley,
tall people loved it.
Can I have a high chair, please?
Yeah. Well, I could barely see over it on my side, so. Yeah, it gave us a lot more flexibility.
What a fun story though, and just to come through COVID and come out the other side, and I mean that must have been an experience.
It was just Brett and I during COVID, and people were like, "How did you survive it?" I'm like, "We went a little crazy, definitely."
We did survive.
Yeah.
But it is also a time to reset. You've been in business for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You always have an idea in mind on how you think this is going to go, and it's never that way. If it is, something's wrong. So now you're like, okay, let's concentrate on those things that have gone well, and maybe back to the Pareto law principle, right? Go with those 80% that are actually producing well.
Yeah, and it was
20 that's
interesting.
not.
Yeah. Before that, the only shipping we really did was Wine Club, but then during COVID and lockdown, people started ordering a lot of wine, and so it was kind of on me to be like, okay, you got to figure out how to ship wine, how to ship it around the country, licensing, all that, which is not something we had really done.
Yeah.
But now we have a pretty, solid online business, and we built our website up to support it. But yeah, I don't, I think it would have eventually happened, but it definitely was
kind of
something
accelerated that.
Totally, yeah.
And I'm sure that is not trivial, having to figure out like online distribution of alcohol.
Some states don't
allow it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, every state is slightly different, so figuring out the
different
licensing
states,
and
I think that still helps you now, right? Obviously,
100%.
you aren't hosting people again, but you still have this dual strategy that you can lean on.
And after this episode airs, you're gonna sell out.
That's what we're looking for.
And
That's-
speaking of that, what?
Yeah, I know. We haven't even got to the Grenache, and we're almost
You guys
done.
are
That's
really
very good.
distracted. Good. Well, that's the most important thing is, does it taste good?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So
bright cherries is what I'm getting. That tart.
Before I even
bright
get there,
cherries.
I smelled like baked cookies. I smelled baked cookies before
Really?
I took a sip.
Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil, episode 183. You just heard our conversation and our tasting with Lizz Sevin. I really feel like we've got something that we need to unveil right away because it's pretty exciting.
What is it?
Well, these bottles that they make are beautiful. That's
Yes.
not what you wanted to hear.
No.
Well, here's what happened. Liz delivered a bouncing baby boy.
Of course,
Now-
we knew it was going to be a boy, but
Yeah, so I've got in my notes Connor. So she must have said it was going to be Connor, but it's actually spelled.
no, she never did say because she was asking for baby boy name suggestions. Remember?
I do
You
remember
forgot
now. Because it is actually Connell. That's
Connell.
it. Connell. Yeah. And reportedly, brother Walter is obsessed,
Oh, good.
which we love. And it's a kind of a funny story because before we sat down for this, I wanted to reach out to Manon, who set our tasting up and everything. And there was a couple things. She said, I asked if there was delivery and she didn't know. She had reached out, but she didn't know yet. And then during the course of our conversation, she's like, oh my gosh, yes, it went great. And she was tearing up a little bit. And it was kind of emotional. It's pretty cool. We love seeing the tight teams and pretty much like family at these
Yeah.
places, right? Anyway, so that was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy the time there. And Liz was so nice. She packed up all these wines.
That we were tasting.
Yeah, that we were
Mhm.
tasting, and she sent us on our way. And when we, that was a Tuesday tasting, the next night we had dinner at the steakhouse
At the Paso Robles Inn,
at the Paso Robles Inn.
which is a really nice place if you have a couple of families because the courtyard area is really lovely.
It really
There's
is.
lots of place to sit.
There is.
They have a garden that has herbs for the restaurant.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's very true. What was kind of cool, here's a kind of a little tip. We haven't talked about corking fee as a wine word of the week, but a corking fee is when you bring your bottle to a restaurant, the restaurant will usually charge you something. Now, at the really high-end restaurants, they could charge you $30, $25 just to open your wine. And you think, oh, well, that's my wine. Well, they're wanting you to drink their wine or they're not going to make money off it. So I get it. We asked what the corking fee was, and she said it's nothing for the first bottle if you got it here in town, and we carry it on our list or something like that. And I said, well, here's the deal. We have like 4 open bottles, and
So you don't even have to uncork them.
Yeah, so you don't even have to uncork them. She's like, bring them in.
Hmm.
You guys are fine, which was fantastic. I think I actually,
Plus, we gave her the
We-
white.
where
the
there was
rest
a
of the
couple
white
glasses
wine.
of white wine, and she was very happy about that. Honestly, it's again just about the relationships and the human interaction. There was really no expectation with that question, but she was really nice about it. So hopefully she's listening to this, and a big shout out and thank you to her because that was a lot of fun. We had this lovely dinner with all of these
Great
wines from Levo that were really great. It was so much fun. Anyway, we should, let's see, there's a couple other things. Oh, the bottles. Yeah, the bottles are gorgeous.
They are gorgeous. They're actually pictures from the airplane graveyard. There's an airplane graveyard somewhere. And he took those pictures and then modified them artistically in, I think, Adobe Photoshop, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so they're very cool.
What's nice about
You can't see
driving.
them. Let me show. Let's see.
You want?
Here's one of them.
Yeah, there you
You
go.
can see.
See, if you're only listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're gonna have to go to YouTube and see the Husky shirt and us
And the
sipping
labels.
the wine. But what I was gonna say is, because we drove, we were able to bring a bottle back, and you peel the label off because the shape of the bottle is really kind of unique.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like the barrel bourbon aged
Type wines that come out.
kinds of wine. Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of shorter bottle around right
yeah.
at the bottom.
But it's a
They
lot of
saved
fun.
it.
Yep. And so that's pretty cool. And let's go ahead and get on with this. This is weird when we kind of jump from thing to thing. We have the CDA Gourmet Wine Word of the Week this week, which is perfect for the wines we tasted down at Levo.
Backbone.
These wines had structure. They had backbone.
Mhm.
You want to tell us a
It
little
refers
bit?
to the structure of the wine.
Yeah.
So the structure comes from the alcohol, the tannins, and the acidity, which is kind of made because of those. So if they're balanced and it's a good structure, has good backbone, if they're not, then they could be flabby or unbalanced. They could be too acidic or
Mhm.
just too boring,
Yep.
which would be flabby probably.
Right. So thank you to CDA Gourmet for our wine word of the week. Only one word this time. Some wines we enjoyed this week. We had Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. We had Accomplished Chardonnay. The Akoya Pinot Noir, which we seem to have off and on these days because it's a really good value at grocery outlet. Claude Argentine Grand Corte Reserva Red Blend. I didn't like that as much as that Malbec. We did find in Spokane 2014 of what we've been getting, and that one's really good. So, and then the Chateau Gemelian,
That's close.
thank you, and Latitude 38 Chardonnay.
Yep.
So those are some of those. We have some things coming up really soon. This Sunday, so 2 days from today, Austrian Sect, and then a week from yesterday, so this coming Thursday, International Mavra Day, and then that's the 26th, as well as Carignan Day, which is the 26th, always the last Thursday in October. You want to go on and talk about the others?
Sure. Why? Is there some
No, because
words in here I can't pronounce?
No, because I'm talking too much.
Oh. World Champagne Day, 10/27. International Xenomavro Day, November 1st. Sarah and Mark Lathrop with Liberty Lake Cellars will be on November 3rd.
Yay.
November 3rd? Yes, okay. International Merlot Day, 11/7. International Tempranillo Day, 11/9. Chris Burns with Liberty Lake Cellars.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
No, I have screwed this up so often. Remember last week I said Chris Burns was with Peachy Canyon or Levo or something like that? No, Chris Burns.
Or Chris Burns.
I know. Chris, my bad. It's with Turtle Rock.
Edit.
No, because last week I said I would sit corrected, and I'm sitting corrected.
Okay.
I was wrong, and I screwed it up again on our notes. It's not Chris Burns, the Liberty Lake. No, it's Chris Burns with Turtle Rock.
No, you gave him a different Cellars last time. Again, he's everywhere.
He is everywhere. That's how good he is. By the way, Chris, to make up for it, you've been on our Facebook page cover photo for 3 weeks. So there you go.
All right. And National Zinfandel Day,
Yay.
11/15, the third Wednesday of November. And Beaujolais Nouveau Day, 11/16. It's the third Thursday in November. should try a Beaujolais Nouveau if you haven't. Make that something to do this year. Try that because
Yeah.
it's interesting. And we'll talk about it then.
Yep.
Carmenere Day, 11/24.
And there is something else. We finally nailed down a day. We've got Iola wines, and they're a similar model to Naked Wines in a sense, but we're going to have, remind me of her name. Marilee.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is what I get for not having them in the notes or correctly. Anyway, that's going to be the 17th. We have got all sorts of guests lined up, and after that is Thanksgiving. So that whole kit and caboodle. Next week, I think I've got this right. Paso Robles series part 4 with Justin Wines and Brad Vandeloon. That was really fun. All of these stops were fun. It's hard to say they're all our favorite, but they were all fantastic and unique in their own way. And that's what is really fun about this. Another thanks to today's sponsors, Coeur d'Alene Fresh and Revora. Shelley, we need to have some backbone on this episode. With a little bit of knowledge, wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Liz. Congratulations on little baby Bambino. That is so cool. And we'll see you next week when we talk with Justin Wines.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you. To health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.